Hello, it's Dawn Michelle from Boho Tarot, and welcome to another mod with me. Today we are going to be trimming and edging the Halloween Tarot. So this was a deck that I just got in, and it's a deck that, like every year this time of year, it goes onto my wish list, and then half the time I just kind of forget about it. And I don't end up getting it, and it definitely has a Halloween vibe to it. I don't foresee myself using this deck really any other time of the year, but it's such a cute little deck that I felt like it was one that I just needed to have around this time of the year. It's so cute. It is very Waite Smith, so no problems there reading it. And I do really love the black backgrounds of it, and yeah, it's just, it's such a cute little deck. But one of the things that I definitely want to do with this deck is to trim it down. It is pretty much a standard tarot size at this point, but I do want to trim it down to just the artwork because, like I said, it is very Waite Smith. So I don't think that I'm going to have any trouble determining what is what, particularly in the minors. That is, outside of it, it's been, made to look more Halloween. I think it will be really easy to read. My only concern might be a few of the majors, so those, I might have to kind of take a little bit closer look at just to make sure that I am going to be able to recognize them. But for the most part, I think it's going to work just fine. It's such a cute little deck, but I really, the white borders and the titles are fine. It does have the copyright and all of that, which is totally fine. I could totally work with it. But I think this deck, I have seen it trimmed down to just the artwork, and it's super cute when it's trimmed to just the artwork. So that's what I'm looking to do with it. So let's go ahead and move on over to my craft table, and we'll get started on trimming the Halloween Tarot. So one of the first things that I'm going to do before I start to trim this deck is I'm actually going to lay out all of the majors, and I'm going to take a picture of them just so I have a cheat sheet reference because I am intending to cut the titles off. So just in case I decide I need that reference, I'm going to go ahead and lay these all out and take a quick picture. And then I'll have like I said, a visual cheat sheet for reference in case I do pull a card and I'm like not really sure what card that's going to be. So that's going to be the first thing I'm going to do real quick before I actually start trimming this deck. Okay, so now that I've made my sort of visual cheat sheet with just taking a quick photo of the entire deck, I actually ended up doing the entire deck just because, it's quick and easy to do, and then I have it in case I need it. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow my usual process, and I'm going to trim one side at a time. And because this is a process that I've done quite frequently lately, I'm not going to go through the whole process. I'll go ahead and probably just trim up the deck and corner around it, and then we'll take a look at the end so that you can see what that looks like, and then we'll take a look at some of the fun colors. But just to give you that quick look, what I do want to see, what I am a little bit curious of, is I do want to cut off the titles, and that is going to kind of mess up my backs a little bit. So what I want to see first, just real quick, just to test, is I want to see, maybe I'll just do the bottoms first. I want to see where I'm going to need to cut to get that off. So it's looking like probably right about here. And I'm actually going to do it. This is one of the extra cards that comes with the deck. I'm going to do it on it first so I can see where that's going to, when I cut that off, where that's going to end up at. Give that a trim. That should be, hopefully, if my measurements were correct. Yep, just down at the bottom there. And so this is what my backs are going to look like. So I'm going to have a little bit more image here than I do down here. And I'm okay with that. It doesn't have to be 100%, accurate. I would rather the fronts look cute, I guess, so to speak, than the backs. Let's just say I trim to, I really think it's this outside border. So I'm going to end up with a white. That may not work. I may have to trim from the back of this deck. Once I get the titles cut off, I may have to flip it around. So let's just see here. So this goes to roughly here. And again, I'm not using like really great measurements or anything. I'm just kind of doing a quick test. So if I trim this deck according to the front, which would be right here, right? Then this is what my back is going to look like. And that is not going to work for me. So while I don't mind the top and bottom being a little bit, a little bit more of the image maintained here than here, I don't like the white around it. So this is at the point where I need to decide, do I want to go ahead and keep those titles and just trim down to the back and leave a white border around it, which I could totally do. Or do I want to, go ahead and trim down to the inside of this? So let's go ahead and trim. So this one does have one more extra card. So maybe let's go ahead and trim this one just, let's trim it down to this outside line, and because that would leave the titles. So that should roughly be this inside frame, which it is. So if I cut it down to the inside frame and I just leave the titles on, I'm going to get a white border around the back. Which is okay, but it's not my favorite. So let's see if we go back to this one and I trim it down, taking obviously the title off. And then let's trim down all this excess white and see what we think about that. Now, this was a really inexpensive deck to get a hold of, so, I'm not really, if I totally mess it up, I'm not that concerned with it. I can replace it. So if I trim it down to the backs so that the backs look like this, I'm going to get a deck that is about this size, which is pretty much close to like tarot in a tin size, a little taller. But that's going to allow my back to be, not have any white border. As you can see here, I'm going to get a little bit more image on the top than the bottom. And I'm going to lose a little bit of each of the sides of my deck. And for the most part, I think I'm going to be okay with that. I'm thinking that that's such a negligible difference that I think that that's going to work all right. Now, generally, I wouldn't trim a deck from the back side, but like I said, because of this, the back imagery is not the same size as this imagery here. We still get in that inner white border. That's where you have to make the decisions of what you want to keep, what you want to, what you want it to look like. This is, I don't like the white with the black with the white with then the colored. So that's just, again, personal preference. But, so I think what I'm going to do is, my plan now is to first go ahead and take off the titles. So I'm going to do that on the whole deck. And then I think I'm going to go through and trim it down to the backs after I've done that. So to start with here, what I'm going to do is go ahead and just trim the titles off of all the cards, and then we will kind of take a second look and go from there. So that's the plan. So this mark should be right where I want to be for the titles. And as long as I'm cutting them all at the same measurement, then they're all going to end up the same because I'm using the same measurement, and that is the beauty of using measurements. And that actually is not quite far enough because I'm still getting a little bit of that white line which I don't want. And I'm going to cut it down to the closest mark. So I'm going to go right here, just moving it over one more mark. And this is going to end up being a teeny tiny deck by the time I'm done, like pretty much tarot in a tin size, but that's okay. So you see I've cut off quite a bit more of that bottom, pretty much cut off the little river, and the back got even closer to that little spider, but I'm okay with it because I really am just making this for kind of a fun Halloween deck. So I'm going to go ahead and roll with this, and I'm going to keep on trimming those titles. Okay, that actually went really quick. So I've got all of the titles, look here they all are, off the bottom of the deck. So now we just need to contend with the white borders on the side. So I'm going to move these out of the way. So I think I said that I'm going to need to trim this deck from the other side now. So I need to flip it over. And you can see that I have lost the white border on the bottoms here. So that worked really well. So now I just need to go through and take the borders off of the rest of the sides. And like I said, I'm going to do it from the back, which is not something that I normally do, but in this particular instance, because the artwork on the front is a little bit larger than the artwork on the back, I'm going to have to do that in order to get it down to a completely borderless on the front and the back. And it's just going to make for a really cute little pocket-sized deck, and I'm totally okay with that. So I'm going to try to find my closest mark here. Just going to do the tops first. And that's not going to get it, which means I have to go over another mark, which I kind of hate to do just because I'm just trimming and trimming and trimming a lot of this deck off, but it's easier to trim when you're using marks that are established on the board. So that just means I need to take off a little bit more of the top than I really intended to, but that's okay. So there you can see that actually took off quite a bit of the top, but you know, that's all right. It gets it a little bit closer down to being the same size. And you can see here that I was talking about the tops having more of the image maintained than the bottoms. But again, I'm okay with that. So we still maintained everything on the front. I think that's going to work just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep on moving forward with this process. All right, so I've got the whole deck trimmed down, completely borderless, and I've rounded the corners, and look how cute this deck is now. This is a stinking cute deck. I am actually really pleasantly surprised by how well it turned out. So now the only thing left to do is to go ahead and edge it. And I did think about doing it just in orange or in orange and black, but I decided because it's so colorful and fun, I wanted to do it in some really fun colors. So I'm going to use my purple, my orange, and my green Crayola. So basically, I'm just going to divide the deck into 3 piles, and then I'm just going to edge them. I'm not going to pay any attention to suit or anything like that. I do want to mix them up a little bit because I don't want, the whole point of doing the 3 different colors is to not get the big chunks when they're in order. So I'm going to mix them up a little bit. While we're here, let's just see. Do they rifle shuffle? They do. They're a little stiff, probably because they're new, but I can rifle shuffle them, so that's nice. So basically, now I'm just gonna sit here and do this and make 3 piles, and then I'm gonna go ahead and edge them in my 3 colors, and we'll take a look at the finished product when we're done. Okay, so I am back, and I have finished edging the entire deck in purple, orange, and green Crayola, and I do really like the way they turned out. I think they look really cute. Love those colors. I left them blocked here together so that we could see them first, and then I'll go ahead and give them a shuffle. And I like when it picks up those colors on the edges like that. It just looks kind of cool. Very Halloween, I think. All right, so let's move these out of the way and give them a little shuffle so we can see what they look like mixed together. Again, they riffle shuffle okay considering I've trimmed them. They're just a little stiff, but probably because they are brand new. They do shuffle really well though, both overhand and riffle shuffle, which is always nice. All right, so now you can see we've got that nice mix of color in there, and it just looks, you know, really fun and adds to the finished look of the decks. We have all these great colors in the deck, and I think they do still work really well, even with the backs just being that orange and black. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with the way that these came out. I've done quite a few decks recently with the multicolored edging, and you know, it's just always one of my favorite things to do, just to give the cards you know, some character and finish them off nicely. So let's just lay a few of them down, see how they look. Because I've taken, you know, the titles completely off of them, and it's just down to the artwork, and I think they actually look really adorable. And I really don't think that I'm going to have any trouble reading with these because they are very weightsmith, so I should be able to work with them just fine. So yeah, look how cute those look. Cute little tarot deck. Anyway, so this was a really fun project. I hope that you enjoyed it as well. So thank you so much for joining me for this mod with me of the Halloween Tarot. And I look forward to seeing you again soon for more creative tarot for an inspired life.